first, let's connect our bodies with our minds, okay? Because our body sometimes is in a place and our mind is somewhere else. So let's connect the body with our minds for 2 seconds, okay?
Yes.
Breathe in and out. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Global Internship Group 2022 program. And I am introducing you to Monica Onisick. But let me tell you a story about Monica. So Monica and I met about the same age as you guys were. So when I tell you about building relationships, you know, Monica is a perfect example of a person that I met, that I got along great. And most importantly, we found commonalities that allowed us to build that relationship. We worked in the same team. Well, actually, we did not work in the exact same team, but we were supporting the same clients. And I went to her and asked for advice about money management while I was doing more relationship management and trade finance. And that's how we built our relationship. With years, we've been always managing kind of the similar clients, but in different spaces. So we got to know about around the same people. We always laugh because we know the same people, but we worked in different areas. So she has been in finance, banking, wealth management for many, many years, more than 20 years. And, you know, we, most importantly, when I told Monica about Apprentice Worldwide and about this crazy idea that I had to bring young professionals and help them get to the next level, taking them from muddy waters and being in a solid base so that they can be successful. Monica was one of the first ones that jumped and said, I want to help you out. She saw the importance of having good mentors. And with her experience, she wanted to give back. So she's been part of our team of mentors for already almost 7 years. So when I told her and asked her to speak to you guys today, I wanted her to talk to you about first, you know, a little bit about her story and how she made it, how she got promoted. Most importantly, about a conversation she had with Taylor Torres, which is responsible for member services, about her interview and how she and I gave her some good advice about negotiating her salary. So, you know, we talked about negotiation, but this is a skill set that you need to start to develop. Most importantly, timing is important. So if you arrive late to a meeting, maybe that's not the best time to discuss a salary increase, right? Or a promotion.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So that's why timing is so important. But without further ado, here is Monica. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being so patiently waiting for me. Yes, like Hernan said, we've known each other from the industry for a few years now, right? A couple of years. We worked together in a couple of companies that happened to be the same, which was First Union, Wachovia. Then he left off to Bank of America. But in the end, we always remain friends because, you know, there's something important, like he says, about friendships and building this strong connections with people and like-minded people, I would like to say. I think we had a lot in common because we were the junior people in our team. We were just starting out our careers, and you sort of, you know, gravitate to each other, so to speak. And I remember that my first trip to Miami, one of the persons that took me around to tour Miami was Hernan. So I still remember the tour. So thank you, Hernan, for that, for the Miami tour around Coconut Grove and whatnot. But I lived in North Carolina at the time. I was working for First Union Wachovia as a trader. I've worked in the fixed income industry for 15 years and the last 4 years in wealth management. So that's my background in terms of finance. I've done my initial job, my first job, like you guys are looking for right now, was an 8-hour interview in North Carolina. I remember that I had to sit there with many different traders in a trading floor, which I wasn't even sure what the job was about. They told me it was just a great opportunity. This would have been my second job with First Union, but the first one was an entry level work. So I didn't know anything about negotiating salary. I got there and I was just happy that they opened the door to me. So for me, it was just, I'm happy to be here. In the process, I have learned how to prepare myself for interviews. And thank you for telling me about reminded me about Taylor's story, because I wanted to talk about her, but I also wanted to talk about another story of a friend of mine whose daughter, it's around your age, went to an interview recently, and both of them successfully got job offers in the range that they wanted. But you have to prepare yourself for the interview. And I took time to individually talk to these two women, and one of them was not even in finance. Actually, Taylor is not in finance, correct? Taylor is a different space. Okay, yes, great. So Taylor is not in our space, or what I would say my space, to talk to her about my experiences specifically, but I could explain to her how I prepare myself for an interview. One of the things that we discussed in her case was, for example, she had some background with the company. She knew the company well. She have worked there during her undergrad years, and now she had acquired a master's. So she had a lot of positive, um, attributes going for her going into this interview. And she was extremely nervous. And a head start was that she knew who was going to be interviewing her. However, she was still extremely nervous to go into the interview. The idea was prepare yourself for the interview. So how do you prepare yourself for your interview? Okay, do you want to negotiate? How are you an asset to this company? You have to ask yourself, how am I an asset for this company? What can I contribute to this company? What do I bring? Not only what this company will bring to you, but what do I bring to you? So these are the things you need to know before you set foot in this interview. In fact, you should know this before you take the interview. Just because, okay, you want to work there. Why do you want to work there? What do I bring? How do I grow within the company? You have to have a plan. And I'm not saying a 10-year, 20-year plan, even a 2-year plan, even a 1-year plan. Where do I want to see myself in 1 year with this company? Because you don't want to just go get a job to get paid. No. You want to have a plan as you grow with this company. So number one, yes, definitely have an idea of what you want to do. Is this the space you want to be in? Is this the sector I want to be in? Of course, it's the first job, so we don't have to worry so much about that. But are you happy where you're going to interview? Right? Okay, so we are happy where we're going to interview, and we're preparing ourselves for the interview. They're going to ask you about your job experience. So what is your job experience like? A lot of us, when we were just out of college, we didn't have a lot of work experience that would match with what we're doing or what we want to do. Or you have perhaps summer jobs, internships. So how do you look into those job interviews or the skills you got from them? Okay, well, number one, I'll look at the fact of, okay, and let me use Taylor's example. So it's more tangible. Okay, what kind of jobs have you done? How does this match with the current position that you're doing? Is it a sales position? Okay, so you were selling tickets priorly at a membership booth, so to speak, which was the case for my friend Natalia. I'm sorry, I'm just making a note here because I wanted to have someone tangible. Okay, so Natalia, she goes to the job interview, but her jobs were a summer internship in Peru, where she did some social media. Her other job was her prior experience, I should say, was selling memberships at the Fairchild Garden. So I talked to her in the interview. In the entire resume, we got to take a step back. The entire resume was based on her Fairchild Garden position, because technically that's what she felt that was her only experience. I speak to her about her summer internship in Peru, which obviously being a foreign student in Peru, now you have a language skill that you have acquired. Now you're communicating in Spanish. Well, my Spanish is not so good, but it doesn't matter if it's good, it's perfect or not. You were doing a summer job, an intern job. Yes, you were not getting paid, but even if you're not getting paid, that doesn't mean it's not experience that you acquired. This is something that you've done. You have gained a skill. You have, mastered something. And, as I'm talking to her, I said, Natalia, you're going to a job interview for marketing, which was her degree in FIU. So I'm like, which I think it's great. This is perfect. It's an entry-level job. Perhaps it's going to be a part-time job. Tell me about why you like this company. And she starts telling me why she likes the company. It's a fast-moving company. It's a new company in Miami. Okay, everything sounds great. Everything sounds promising. And I said, well, tell me a little bit more about the company. Well, she didn't know so much. And I said, we might want to start by doing a little bit of research on background on the company. You want to be prepared because they're going to ask you questions about why do you want to work for us? What attracted you to be here with us? What differentiates us from another company that you perhaps are applying with? So you have to prepare yourself to answer those questions. Well, I know that this is a fast-moving company. You have been in Miami for, X amount of years. You're coming from a different city. You're bringing many things. In this case, it was a tech company. So of course, we have a lot of new tech companies coming to Miami. Okay, what specifically about this tech company attracted you? So you have to arm yourself with information on the company, because then you're going to say, okay, I'm sitting there. Well, I saw the job post and it sounds cool, and it's a tech company. Okay, well, what are we doing? What is our tech skill? So arm yourself with information. So Natalia goes to the job, or she calls me, and we talked about before her job interview. I look at her, I said, send me your resume right away. Yes, of course, you're my friend's daughter. I want to help you. Let's do this today. We're going to do a mock interview. I used to do a lot of interviews for our interns when I was at Nomura. And I said to her, your entire resume, it's about your 2 jobs, Fairchild Garden and another job, let's say Publix. I can't remember what it was. Where is this internship? Oh, I mentioned it at the very end under studies. Okay, well, that's a big mistake. You should put that as experience. So we have to change the resume, move it onto experience. Talk to me before we start the interview about this internship. It was for a TV show or a TV station for like their social news. I helped them develop hashtags. I said, you help them develop hashtags. So, and this is something that is missing from your resume for a marketing degree. So this Peruvian, let's say TV show, didn't know the power of hashtags in social media. And yet you brought that to their attention, which is great. As an intern, you're bringing some new information that they were not aware of, something that's key. That needs to be on your resume, and you need to think of ideas on how this got developed. So now I'm telling her, start thinking of ideas or start thinking of experiences or moments where bringing up this hashtag and she gave me 3 different hashtags that she developed for them that were successful in Peru. And I said, well, this needs to be in your resume. Oh, but I didn't know because no, it does matter. So any experiences that you guys do with your friends, with your fraternity, with your clubs, if a lot of you were still in clubs in college, that any kind of activity experience, it's important. And so far, this is your life experience. So please put that on your resume, prepare yourself to discuss it. What about, well, with my fraternity, we did a specific party or a fundraiser, and we were able to help or not. So again, make sure you prepare, make sure you know the company. I would like this to be a little bit more interactive, but before I get there, I had some other ideas that I wanted to discuss. Natalia, successfully, she sat down that night, just to finish her story since I mentioned her so much. She sat down that night. She called me the next morning. She's like, oh, I sat down and wrote all these different thoughts that came back to my head. I was able to recall a few different stories because in a job interview, they're going to ask you, for example, tell me about your experience. Oh, how did that hashtag situation come about? What were the results? What was your involvement? So you have to be able to answer these questions. How will you answer this question? Well, I was able to develop it in this direction. She ends up getting a very interesting job offer, which she took, and I'm very happy for her. She called me the next day and she said, I couldn't go to sleep, prepare myself, because as I kept writing thoughts about my experience with this summer internship that I really disregarded, a lot of material came about, a lot of information. So I was able to answer questions based on that. Big mistake, I remember, and I said to her, make sure you ask the proper questions about salary, time, like what's your schedule going to be like? Now we have to discuss remote, not remote. But she forgot about this. She was so nervous because she was so full of information. But again, she only had 12 hours to prepare for the interview. She was so nervous that she forgot to all of this. So she called me the next day and she's like, I'm sorry, the first thing I forgot about was asking about the salary and the benefits, which ended up being hindering for her because she liked it, but then she wasn't so happy about. So that's kind of a story where we have to take that you have to learn this information. Hernan, do you want to share a little bit about Taylor's story, her background, because you know her better than me in terms of her previous job experience before I came in to coach her for her interview? Do you know a little bit of her background?
Yeah, so she was in transition between her undergrad and her master's, and she hadn't finished her master's yet. She was working in operations for a company. She happened to be the only one in operations for a little bit of time, and then the company grew a little bit, and she happened to do a good job, right? So she was contemplating. She was looking at other companies to put her master's to work. So she was making probably like 35,000, something like that, and she was looking to add, based on her her master's, to be more compensated. So when I spoke to her first, she was looking elsewhere, and because she didn't think that she could go from 35,000 to what she wanted, and that's when I got you involved, because I told her, okay, what is how can we help her get to that next level instead of she having to look elsewhere? How much money do you think would be good for you to stay in that company? And she told me, okay, so masters, you're probably getting, over 60,000, 70,000. And she said, and I told her, well, let's prepare you for 70,000. And she was like, oh my God, how can they go from 35 to 70,000? And said, don't worry about it. We're going to prepare you for 70,000. You're ready? Yes. Okay. So that's when I called Monica.
Yeah.
And I told her, how can we prove to the company that she is worth 70,000, not 35? So that's, you want to share then what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Taylor, I took the same approach that I did with Natalia, in terms of just doing a mock interview. I am a big believer of mock interviews because you're going to be nervous, you're going to forget your train of thoughts, you're going to, especially at the beginning of your career. You have so much, I don't want to say anxiety, but anticipation to get there, to get to the next step, that you forget these important points. Like Natalia, she forgot this internship altogether, which, by the way, it brings her bilingual skills into her resume. It brought her experience on television. It brought her marketing, mass marketing experience. It brought, I can't remember but in the end, it was 4 different bullet points that were critical to differentiate yourself in a job interview, because now you have previous experience. Even if you don't think it is experience, it is experience. You live through this. You help a company. Again, just keep this in mind. And maybe today, after the end of the day, just go back and look over your resumes and kind of think back about situations or experiences that you had that perhaps are not reflecting. Volunteering work is key in your resume as well. So we'll have to perhaps do a follow-up class on resume, but I leave that to Hernan to work on how to build a good resume. But at this point, I'm supposed to be negotiating the job offer. So you already went to the interview. Your resume was killer. You made it. You got an awesome interview. And now you have to do, they make you an offer. So for Taylor, she says to me, there is no way. I mean, I've been with this company. I know what they pay. I know what they're going to tell me. I sat with her and I said, let's do this mock interview. We did the mock interview. She did great. She answered, you know, she was nervous, but she answered her questions appropriately. And I said to Taylor, okay, how can you tell someone I'm worth this amount of money? Well, in her particular case, Taylor had been with a company for several years. Being with a company for several years had already given her a head start on the culture of the company, which to any new employer will take them anywhere from, 7 months to a year to have someone. And that's in a very like accelerate. There's people that goes 2 years by and they don't still understand the culture of the company. So understanding the culture of the company, the goal of the company, was key in this case. I tell her, now you have added a master's degree. So you know the company well. You understand the culture of the company. You know where the company's going, what their goal is going to be. Now you have additional skills you have acquired in the process. This is your perfect time to negotiate your promotion and her salary. Okay, no, she was extremely doubtful that that could happen because they've known her for so long. I mean, there's no way that they can give her that amount of money. And we sat there, Hernan was there for a while, then I was there too. Same thing that I just told you guys. Prepare yourself with information. I told her, explain to them how valuable you are. Bring it in, and it's how valuable you are, not why you're better than a different person. You have to focus on yourself. Okay, so I can bring to this company this kind of experience. In her case, I'm going to use her case, so it's easier. She had been with the company for, I think it was like 5 years. I'm not really sure, maybe a little bit less. So I have been with the company for 5 years. I understand the culture. I understand the goals of the company. I know actually the few next steps that we want to take, and I'm ready to take the team there. Yes, I will be working with a different team. However, I think I am the leader that can take us there for that division. Prepare yourself with information. Key. Why do you think you deserve a raise? Well, I think I deserve a raise because I can, knowing the culture of the company, you are already, saving yourself 10 months of training someone into the company culture. You have someone that loves the company so much that wants to grow within and take it to the next level. I know it sounds silly, but it is very important to know that you want to grow with them. The idea is for your employer or for your future employer to know that you have you want to have a future with them. You want to grow with them. I was reading an article recently where they talk about not underestimating the importance of likability. So you want to be likable within the company, but yet you have to be prepared information. I don't know. Can we make it a little bit more interactive? I like more questions back and forth as if it were an interview. I would love to be more like an interview rather than being a teacher. Is that possible, Hernan? It's up to you. You're the creator of the
Yeah.
forum.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first question that I have is, how much money do you think you are worth? How much money do you think you're worth right now? How much money, when you get out of whatever situation you have, how much money do you want right now? Like if I tell you, Bobby, you're graduating from with finance, right? How much money do you think a guy in finance with your experience makes?
Probably like 100,000, 120,000.
With an undergrad,
With an undergrad, yes.
an undergrad in finance.
Yes.
So the going market for somebody in Miami and in New York, starting salary with an undergrad in finance, it's around 70,000,
Right.
not 100,000. So this is why it's important to understand. I know what you want, but the going market, I can find somebody right now with graduating from UM with a finance degree and take them to New York and pay them 70,000, not 100,000. You see, so that's fine. By the way, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the market, right? So how do you find those $100,000 jobs? It might take a little bit of research. It might take you to a certain niche. Maybe you have a certain skill set that nobody has, and we have to highlight that. But to go from 70,000 to 100,000, that's $30,000 difference. You have to have number one in your class, or going to work for a Polish bank, and you're from Poland, right? Things that are very specific to you. So these are things that you need to investigate to be able to bring that value. So, and we can talk about that, Bobby. We have 5 more weeks or 4 more weeks to raise your value from 70,000 to 100,000. Okay. And by the way,
So,
are you graduating in this semester or next semester?
No, I'm actually graduating in fall of 2023.
Bingo. So how do I raise your value? Understanding that the market today, and it might be less because more people are going to the market. It might be less or it might be more. We don't know, right? So these are the things that you need to be aware of. But that's an example. Okay. So Baba, you're in finance. Let's talk about logistic. Chris, I know you're combing your hair. Sorry to pick on you, but logistics. Are you aware of how much money somebody in logistics with an undergrad? Have you done that research?
I should do more research on that.
Yes.
well, Hernan, I like that Emerson mentioned that Goldman changed their minimum in New York to 110,000, right? That sounds about right. One thing that we need to remember, it's your location. Because now that we're doing a lot of remote work, we're thinking, okay, I live in Miami, but I work for Goldman in New York, and this is what I'm expecting. Well, that's not what's going to happen. Okay, so remote work is a whole different ballgame in terms of negotiating your salary. In fact, a lot of companies, and I know from New York, I spoke to a few finance companies like Market Access, and I'm always listening to what the companies are doing. This is something that I've been doing all my career. Just keep my eyes and ears open, even if I'm not actively pursuing a different job. I always like to hear where we are or where my skill set is paying across the board in different companies and in different areas. One thing that has always been clear to me, Miami or Florida as a state and New York are never going to be at the same level of pay. Why? Because you have the benefit of not having state taxes here, or you don't pay federal taxes. I'm sorry, state taxes, you pay federal, only not state. So therefore, the employers already know that they can come a little bit under. It's actually a formula that is developed in HR geographically based on states. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because you cannot expect to get paid the same that you would get paid in New York. Even though right now, Miami, if we talk about inflation, which we shouldn't get into inflation because that's a whole different ballgame, will be probably as expensive as it will be to live in New York in terms of cost of living. However, that's not how it's been studied by HR. So these HR companies have already developed a grid of what the cost of living minus taxes, minus this. So therefore, they just already give you a range of what your salary would be.
By the way, I'm going to challenge Emerson. So I just looked at financial analysts in Glassdoor, salary.com, and pay scale, and the higher end of a financial analyst is making $93,000 as of Glassdoor. Salary.com, $72,000 and $79,000 for pay scale on the high end. So yes, you might be right, but are you worth the high end? Right? And this is why it's so important. This is, by the way, I bug you on purpose, because what happens is you have to be prepared to having these dialogues. So that's exactly what Taylor did. I don't know if you remember, Monica, but this is exactly what we told her. Find out and then go to your boss and says, okay, do you know what an operations manager makes average? You're paying me $35,000 and the average is $70,000 and the higher end is $93,000. By the way, it's I don't expect to get paid $93,000, but I don't expect to get paid under this amount when you are when I have a master's in this thing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was key, because you could say, I could easily go to another company where they're going to have to train me. They're going to have to, or you can hire somebody from outside the company whom you will have to train, who you will probably spend a year getting, to know the company, and therefore they might not even like the job. Here is someone that it's already have shown, I don't want to say love for the company, but she loved the culture. She actually cared about the company in her particular case. So it was easier for her to say those words, to say, I've been here, I like it, I would like to continue to grow. However, I know my value. If I were to go somewhere else, I could ask for this amount. However, I don't want to go somewhere else. I want to be here, and I want to help you move to the next step. But she was terrified by that. She was terrified. But she did agree.
But she was terrified, but she was the incumbent.
Yeah.
So a boss used to tell me, Hernan, every time that you complain about your situation, I can post your entire office full of resumes of people that want your position. And he told me that at a young age, and that quickly put my mindset into what is my value, and am I always giving more of my value, not less, more, so that people can go, okay, the guy's worth $100,000, the guy's worth $200,000, right? But if I'm doing $100,000 work and expect $200,000, I have a problem, right? So, Armin, I know you have your hand up.
So, what would you say about leveraging another position in order to proceed with negotiations? Very important, yes. Is that because a lot of times, from my point of view, it seems like a Hail Mary. It works or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, you have to go with your other option. I don't know. But what's your take on
Yeah. So I will give you, and Monica, you can add, but what I normally did, and my wife is somewhere around here, can vouch for it as well. Every time that I interviewed, I always had something else lined up. So it's kind of like I leverage my position, and I normally had 2-3 offers at the same time. Yes, I wanted one, right? This is the one that I wanted. Like I wanted to work. I'll give you an example. For example, I got offered a position to work in Wells Fargo. Can you
¿A dónde?
can you put that in mute, Carla?
No, ese ya.
Okay, thank you. So in the year 2005, when I finished Wells Fargo, I wanted to leave Wells Fargo because my boss, this is being recorded, so I shall not tell you what I thought about my boss. But my boss, let's say he mistreated me a little bit. And I leveraged the fact that I had relationships, that I was doing a good job at my work, to try to convince a person that was one of my clients to take me to his bank. So I had a bank called Bladex, the Trade Bank of Latin America, and I got an offer from the Trade Bank of Latin America, and he was negotiating. At the same time, I said, you know what? Somebody told me about a position at Wells Fargo in California, and I said, they sent me to California. I went to Laguna Niguel. I saw the house. I embodied living in California at that time. A young guy, had a small child at the time. Going from, at that time I was making like 75, going from 75 to like 120, because I knew I was worth 120. And when I got the 2 offers more or less around the same time, like I was pushing one over the other, planning over the other, I realized that the offers were exactly the same. So 125 on one side, 125 on the other. And then when I started doing the math, I'm like, I can't. I got to stay in Miami.
Of
right?
course.
So these are the kind of things that you do. So sometimes you have to, well, you mentioned about the location, but another thing is, you can negotiate other things as well. Salary is not the only thing, right? So
No.
negotiate.
I wanted to bring up salary just because Emerson had brought up the minimum or the new minimum at Goldman. But by the way, Emerson, we're talking about Goldman. Goldman is a whole nother ball game. Goldman will pay probably on top of what a lot of the companies are paying. But again, if you can get into Goldman, that sounds wonderful. We have a lot of good friends. And actually, we met with a colleague recently that works at Goldman for the last 10 years. But on top of course, we have many other things to negotiate. We just kind of got stuck in what the starting salary was. So that's just the research you do before the interview. We haven't even gotten to the point of negotiating the offer. This is after you get to your offer. But Emerson, you raised your hand. Do you have a question for me or for Anand?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. One of the questions that I have was, I spent a lot of time in college, doing a variety of different work because, that's why I thought time was the best way for me to build up my resume. And so
And
I
it
have,
is.
right, but I have, 5, 6, 7 different experiences and so much time I spent in college. But at the same time, I know when I'm showing my resume, I want to shorten it to maybe 1 page so that it's quick, concise, and easy to read. And also so you can get through the ATS. I am wondering, what are some ways you would recommend that I could, bring up these other experiences, to show, I think, because it also shows in part, the kind of perspective or dedication I bring to the work that I do, wanting to explore different things, to an interview or put into my resume.
Great question. I loved it. And the reason why is because I personalize each resume to the job description. I read the job description, I read the company, I read about the culture of the company, and I individually take my draft resume and alter it, so to speak, or modify it, it's a better word, to fit the job or the job description, because each company is very different. And some companies are going to talk about diversity, and some companies are going to talk about perhaps my Latin American experience will be a better fit, where my experience in Puerto Rico will be a better fit today, or my experience with women in diversity will show a stronger view, or perhaps some of my earlier experience as being in the wire transfer, where I had a very operational job, or when I was a sales assistant, where I had to have a very high pace, high impact job, will make a difference in the interview. So every single resume, I don't send mass resumes. My resumes for two companies are not going to be the same. So I have a folder on my computer, and it will actually have the name of the company. So if I get called back to this interview, it would say Monica Gallman and the month and the year that I sent it in. So I know exactly which draft they're referring to. So when the HR person calls me back, I can refer back to that resume, and I know exactly what they're looking at. So it's key, from what I was telling you at the beginning, arm yourself with information on the company. Find out why you want to work in that company, what impact or what difference you will make in that company. And I'm not talking about like a global impact change. I'm talking about, okay, I think I fit in this company because I have some past experience in Natalia's example that I told you, in a Peruvian TV station, where I brought hashtags to be a very specific key role for that, social media trending TV show that she was working for, where if she were to go to a job interview for marketing at a bank, that's not perhaps what they're looking for. But because it was a tech company, it's a modern company, it's a hip company, and they want to have like an impact on social media to attract people, that's kind of the experience that you're looking for. So you really have to tailor every single, I am a huge believer of tailoring your resume to the company that you're going to. It sounds easy to just send a blast resume to everyone and see who calls you. And perhaps you were talking about metrics, and you were talking about all these different things. We shouldn't so much focus on those metrics or the specifics of one pagers. Like with my career right now, there is no way I can make my resume one page. It's impossible. Hernan, it's probably the same for you, right? It is not possible for me to fit everything in one page, and I have to submit it in as 2-page and let it go. Just go for it. Obviously, if they're not calling me, it's because they're really not reading my resume, and that's probably, I don't want to work for that company anyways, because if you don't have time to read from my experience, it doesn't speak well of the company as how they're going to treat their employees. Now, being an entry-level employee, first job, second job, right? Third job, where you have already acquired some experience, but yet you're not, like Natalia was so new, just leaving college. She only had that one job. Tailor it. Take your time. This is your career. This is your future. You're talking about asking for 110 minimum on finance. Tell them why. You took the time to prepare the resume to work in that company. So do your work, do your homework, read about the company, prepare the resume to tailor to them, and then know how you're going to walk in super confident and tell them why you're the right person for that particular job. We still haven't gotten to benefits yet, Hernan. Location, jobs, or anything else. But thanks for the question, Emerson. It was great.
Yeah, I want to talk about the problem that we, and I say we because I know a lot of you very well, highly motivated, right, people that are smart and that are probably top of the list, right? And we have so many talents that we want to do it all and do it all at the same time, right? And this is something that happens to me. Like I like many things, right? I like crypto, I like finance, I like marketing, right? And Emerson, I feel you. I'm the same way. Okay. But you need to learn that the story that you tell has to be consistent. So not only the resume, so the resume has to look, if you're applying for a finance job, has to look for the keywords that a finance person will look at, right? But really, really in your mindset is, when you go talk to people, you gotta start like so we have to make a choice, right? At some point in our lives, it hurts us to make a choice because we want to do it all. But you know what? You have to make a choice. And the choice is, this is what I'm going to do first. That doesn't mean that's what you're going to do forever, but this is what you're going to do first. And then if you try that and you really don't like it, you know what? Switch immediately as fast as you can. Because if it's painful, like for example, I was a credit analyst when I started. Honestly, it was dreadful. Like I couldn't sit more than, you know, 4 hours a day in front of a computer because I would shoot myself. But I knew that was required. That was required skill set. And I needed to be at least a minimum of a year and a half doing that to be able to vie for the corporate banking position. So you know what? I swallowed it. I like swallowed it, but I swallowed it because what I started doing is after 5 o'clock, I started going and hanging out with corporate bankers. So guess why I went to FIBA and you know FIBA, Monica. The reason that I at 5 o'clock I would leave and go to all the banker conferences because I knew that I needed that skill set, but I needed to balance that with the activity after hours that will take me to that position as fast as I can. But again, everybody has to make a choice, right? Let me start here. I was talking to Chris, for example, the other day, right, Chris? Okay, what's your theme? Logistics. Let's go with logistics now. Okay, let's stick with that. See where it leads us. Maybe he wants to go from logistics to operations. Maybe he wants to go from operations to sales because he's a nice guy. He likes to sell. You know, we don't know where the end is going to come, but we know where the beginning is. The beginning is I have to make a choice. And sometimes it hurts us, right? The other thing is marketing. By the way, I am a natural marketer. My dad was the head of marketing of Blue Cross Blue Shield in Puerto Rico. And I love marketing, but marketing is highly competitive. Why? Because it's a fun job, right? If you're a creative person, maybe for somebody that's a data analyst, maybe it's not that fun. But for me, that I'm a creative, that is the funnest job. But guess what? The competition is brutal. So therefore, I have to devise strategies and techniques that are going to make me differentiate myself above and beyond the other people. So, for example, one thing that I complain about marketers, because I am one, is that marketers suck at looking at the revenues that they make. And that is the number one thing your bosses or the people that hire you are looking for.
Well, look at, yes.
So, what is my return on the investment for the money that I put in the marketing? How many books have I sold if I'm promoting a book? Simple. How many tickets did I sell if I am selling tickets? If I sell one ticket, the marketing campaign is beautiful, lovely, but my boss is gonna kick my butt, right? And by the way, this is why we do internships, to learn all these things, to make all the mistakes that we can now. Make the mistakes now, okay? Because once you graduate, your bosses are not going to be as nice telling you what you should focus on. Maybe they're a little nice, but not all these bosses are that patient. No? What do you think, Monica?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I remember on my first day on the trading floor, which I was kind of laughing when you said you couldn't sit in front of a computer for 4 hours. Try being in a trading floor for 8.5 hours, just staring at 5 monitors in front of you, and that's all you can do. So I remember my first day, and I go to my boss very politely. Again, I don't know what's going on. I have 100 lines ringing in front of me, and people are screaming all around the trading floor in North Carolina. I have no idea what's going on. I was 22. I was just lucky and happy to be there. I was so happy that I didn't even realize I'm in a trading floor. So everybody's working and I'm just sitting there smiling, and they're like, oh my God, please just get out of my face. Just go away with your happy self somewhere else. We don't want to see you. I go to my boss and I said, listen, I have to go to lunch. Everybody seems very agitated. It's 12. I should probably go now. This super nice woman. She was probably like 60 or 70 years old at the time, very kind. She says to me, oh, honey, well, yes, of course you don't understand this, but it's okay. So go to lunch. In fact, why don't you just go home? You did great today. Just take your time, go home now, and we'll see you tomorrow. And I'm thinking, I just got fired. I'm like, what did I do wrong? They're like, no, nothing, just go home. She's like, I don't know how to tell you this because I can't really tell you not to take lunch, right? She's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but in a trading floor, we kind of encourage you to sort of just maybe eat your lunch at your desk and get paid the overtime. Wouldn't that be great? You get paid overtime and, you're making this executive salary, but they can't tell you not to do it. Of course, I didn't even know that, but that was just day one, sitting there for 9 hours in front of my computer. But at 12, they sent me home, and I went home and I cried, and I'm thinking I got fired from my trading floor job as a sales assistant in morning market in Wachovia. And I said, I'll be there 30 minutes earlier tomorrow, just in case. I'm supposed to pack my box with my one pencil because I'm not even unpacked. So, but no. Successfully, I was there for that work for that company in total for 15 years. So it was okay. I think they knew I understood that I was supposed to not take my lunch.
Not only that, I think,
and watch on the screen.
By the way, I think you did a good job, right? You survived.
Yeah, day one. Yeah, I went home and cried, and I thought I said, what am I going to do with all these suits that I just bought? Okay, well, good thing they have the tag on. Maybe I'll return them this weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do, but no, it was fine. It was fine. It was just I was cumbersome to them. I wasn't helping. I wasn't answering calls. I didn't know what was going on. So they were like, okay, move along.
Bueno, listen, it's 7:37. I have to go. You can stay here for a little bit. I know there's other questions, but one thing that I will share with you is, for those of you that are in college, I wasn't kidding. Now is the time to make all the mistakes, okay? Because when you make them, when you're on the other side, you start making mistakes. You start getting in trouble. That's why interning is so important. That's why volunteering is so important. And we're going to talk about volunteering as a way to success later on. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to challenge you. Okay. If you do not know how much money the people in your industry are making, forget about salary.com. That's a starting point. I want to ask you to start talking to people that are in those industries, in the industry that you want. Start with your mentor, okay? Be upfront. Tell them, hey, what do you think? I heard that people in my industry are making 110,000 in finance. Is this true? And just listen, okay? The other thing I want you to challenge you is look at the organizations that are in your field, right? And then start networking with the people in those industries. For the people at Apprentice Worldwide, it's easier. We have industry groups. I don't know if you know that, but everybody in finance, we are in one group. Everybody in marketing, we're another group, right? Mary, we have a marketing team of like 10, 15 marketing executives that are there for you. In operations, we have people in operations. The point is that this is what you have to start doing some research, okay? And then find out what your salary. Second thing is, find out where. Okay. So if I want to be a finance guy in Wichita, Kansas, the reality is that my finance job will probably be the Bank of Wichita, right? And the other 150 banks that I want to have a job in are not going to have an office there. So let's do another test. Go to Enterprise Florida's website, just as a test, okay? In the case of New York, I don't know what the development office is, but the Office of Economic Development of your city and town has the name of the companies in your city or in the city that you want to work in. All right. So my brother, for example, is a cinematographer. The guy graduated from UCF Tops, worked as an internship in Universal Studios. Guess what? The guy never moved to California. His jobs were limited until he started building a reputation. He spent 15 years in the industry. Then he started to get recognized. But if he would have moved to California, I'm sure that he would have gotten more jobs in film, in the film industry. So do the research of the companies. If you want to stay in New York, stay in New York. But just do research of the companies that are there and see if you start making some connections. Okay. So the likelihood is if you want to do Latin America work, you'll probably end up in Miami, right? New York, yes. But second, Miami, most likely Miami, if you're doing Latin America. And Spanish is a skill set that you have. So challenges. Does anybody accept my challenge?
Hernan, I have questions.
Sure.
What's the website you just said for the?
So go to Enterprise Florida.
Okay. That's
And
it. That's all?
they have industry reports.
Gabriel is on the chat. I think someone put it on the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
EnterpriseFlorida.com, small business.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Listen, I gotta go. I'll leave you with Monica. Behave. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Daniela will talk. Sanika will talk, of course. And anybody that has any questions, remember, we're not going anywhere. Monica's a mentor in our team, right? So this is not only a speaker. This is somebody that you can talk to later on, okay?
You can
So-
write to me, and in fact, I wanna do a further on challenge. But go ahead and say your goodbye so we can.
Okay, I gotta go. If not, Genesis can find us.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Talk to you
Hernan,
later.
for doing this.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, I want to do a follow-up challenge for you guys to look at your own resume that you had today and cater a specific one to any job, just one other company or job that you're looking into or company that you're looking into, and then just change it to fit the company profile, to fit the group, to fit the job description, to to have those keywords, to have what they're actually asking you for, because the companies give you a lot of information. They do give you like the broad, oh, this is us. And in fact, in most of, if you go to a LinkedIn job description, they'll give you a description on the company, then they'll give you a description on the job specifically, and then that's where so I'll challenge you guys. And then if any of you want to just send it to me before and after, I'm on WhatsApp, so feel free to do that. But that will be a good exercise for you to look at what you were doing today and what you can do tomorrow going forward with the different positions. Any questions? We never even got to negotiating skills. I have to say that I was a little scared with the description of the presentation because we were supposed to master the skills today. I don't think we can master everything on just a 1 hour presentation, but at least we could prepare you to that first negotiation. And also, my position is different than the position that you're looking for right now. Therefore, I might have a little bit more leverage. I know someone was talking about leverage. Where's my leverage person? Armin, right? You were talking about how preparing and having some leverage before you go to the presentation, or the interview. So therefore, my skills might be a little bit different than what you can present. But for your position and entry level, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a very good article that I used to prepare and research for this presentation, which was from Harvard's Business Review, about actually preparing for an interview and actually getting your job offer. And I read it today and I wanted to share it with you ahead of time, but I didn't want to make it homework. Now it's just your choice if you want to read it or not. Any questions? I know we have questions about negotiating your salary. Well, I don't remember having a lot of options in my earlier career, but we're talking about 20 years ago and things have changed. And now we have, location issues, which I did encounter on my last job offer, which was negotiating a hybrid, semi-hybrid, full work position, the location of the job. And those are very new things that you guys are going to encounter that we didn't have even 3 years ago. So this will be, I would love to hear from you guys if you have had any experience of this. I have my own experience, I can talk about it, but I want to hear what you're encountering. Have any of you been in a job interview recently where you have had discuss hybrid positions, full-time in the office? No? Christopher, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed for this company called Brain Station maybe a month or two ago, and they have an office in Wynwood, but they said it's like hybrid. So I would have only had to go to the office like 2 times during the week, and then the rest would be at home.
From home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did they present that to you? Because now one thing that I'm hearing, especially for the finance group that is here, it's a lot of companies, New York and Miami based, are making it clear that they're no longer accepting remote work. Now, you could have a hybrid position, which is different than remote work, because a lot of people were doing remote work that where I live in Miami, but I work for a New York company and it's all remote work. No, now they want their employees to be locally, geographically located.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, that's what they told me, that it is an expectation for me to go to the office, but I wouldn't have to go like every day. So as long as they told me all the offices that they have around the country, but luckily, they have one in Wynwood, so that was why I was interested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Well, I'll tell you from my experience. So I recently switched companies from, well, recently last year, but I came from Wells Fargo to Raymond James, to a company, a division of Raymond James. And part of what attracted me to the position was to have the ability to work remotely 3 days of the week, and then 2 days or 3 days, depending on how the work volume was that week, I could work from home. So that was one of key for me, because at Wells Fargo, I was supposed to be there 100%. Another thing that I looked into the position was obviously how long I would have to commute. So my time for commuting was key. I work 10 minutes from my house. Now I'm going to be working perhaps 30 minutes away. So we're adding an hour commute. So your time is valuable. So these are things that you have to factor in. Also, the cost of commuting. It's also a factor, because we get caught on the price tag, the flashy numbers. So 110,000 in New York, it's good. In Miami, oh my God, we're going to be, but then you're going to have to commute, 3 hours a day? Perhaps that's when you start looking at other options where you're not commuting 3 hours a day, and you can invest that time, your personal time, on something else. So these are things that we have to look at when you're looking at an offer. Benefits. Benefits is also very important to study. And a lot of companies, you think that the benefits are standard, which are not. Bigger companies will have better insurance company, for example, better 401k plans. They perhaps will offer stock option plans. They perhaps will offer, I don't know, they no longer offer retirement plans. I can't remember what it was even called. But so these are things that you need to look into when you're studying the whole package. You don't want to get lost into only looking at a number. There is a lot of benefits within those benefit packages that might be a better fit for you today that will be at a different time. So for example, for me, health, my particular situation, I'm a single mom. So to me, health is important, health care for my son and myself. So I have to make sure that they offer a good healthcare plan, because if I'm going to have to buy another plan to complement the plan, I'm already losing money. Is this something I want to do? No, I don't. You being, 20 something year old, perhaps it's not something that is so much to your concern because you're healthy, you're well, you work out, you have pretty much good health. You only go to your doctor once a year to do your physical, and that's it. So that's something that perhaps you don't want to concern yourself about. Now, retirement is something that you're not thinking about right now because you're 20. You're like, oh, why would I care about retirement right now? But the blink of an eye, you're not going to be 20. And you have to start putting money aside for your retirement. I'm a huge believer on the 401k plans. And as long as your company contributes, especially at an earlier age in your earlier career, I was putting in the max. I was putting in 10%. Wachovia was matching 6%. So that was 6% extra money that I would just get from them. This was free money. My company is giving me money to save money. So why not? And it was money that I was not going to spend on Starbucks, or I was not going to spend on clothing, or going shopping with my friends, or whatever other things. I would just put it away. I actually because I was in finance, I had a very aggressive portfolio. So I watched that 401k move in an upward direction. So it was exciting to watch my savings grow. So I will absolutely recommend to look at 401k plans if your company offers. If they offer it, how much do they match? Of course, within your own, you have to look at your own finances and think, okay, what's the max that I can put? If I can only put 3% instead of 6%, then do that. Maybe you have loans that you have to pay back. Maybe you have other obligations that you have to focus on. So definitely take a time to look at benefits. Now we have the 401k plan. What else do you think would be key on a job offer that would attract you? Just anything, just randomly, just throw it at me.
Proving that
What else? Was that, Austin?
I'd say proving that you're reliable and that they can trust you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is key in the job interview. But you, as the person receiving the offer, what else would you be looking at other than obviously the big number, right? The number that you were hoping, like Hernan said, that you're looking at. Let's just use the 110 since we have that number on the table. They give you this flash 110 and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm making 0 and now I'm going to make 110. I'm rich. I'm so good. This is wonderful. But you're not looking at the benefits. You're not looking at the 401k. What is another thing that strikes you as important?
I would probably say the quality of the environment, and like
Excellent.
Is your trade-off for your time worth it for you mentally and for your health?
Excellent. Excellent. Absolutely. So I think quality of life, it's very important. So when I went on my last job interview, of course, I made a huge list of demands of what I wanted. I actually, they were very blunt with me. They called me. I'm like, listen, I'm happy at my job. I'm at Wells Fargo. I've been with this company for 15 years. I don't need to go anywhere. Like, what do you have to offer me? What do you have to offer me? So they tell me what they have to offer. Oh, it's a dynamic company and they're using all this, cool words. What's that? We're dynamic. We're fast growing. We are, next, you can do remote work. Now you can work from home all week if you need to. You can stay home with your son and take care of him. And I'm like, oh, well, that all sounds fabulous. That all sounds wonderful to me. Quality of life. Oh, great, great. Well, now I'm thinking I'm commuting an extra hour a day. So maybe the quality of life, I don't know so much, but I'll keep it as a factor. Sounds really cool. Then the hiring manager, and this is something you guys have to remember, the hiring managers, they will tell you a lot about the company and their ability to hire you, or their desirability to hire you during the interview. It's just we're so nervous, we don't really listen. They said to me, we're going to make you an offer and we're not going to negotiate from the offer. Sounds great. I understand. I said, good. He said, what is your number? Okay, I gave him my number. I gave him my number after I factor in the cost of the gasoline. And this was before it reached $5. We were talking about $2 gas tank. I'm like, okay, my commute from Coral Gables to downtown is going to cost me this much, and I'm going to be away, and then perhaps I'm going to need to get now a babysitter for my son and sometimes. So I'm factoring all these numbers of expenses that I didn't have, that I will have, crossing off healthcare, crossing off 401k, basic. This is good. Okay. All right. I shoot him a number. This is my number. You know, he looks at it and he's like, well, okay, we're looking into it. It's a bit above the number that they wanted to pay. And he comes back to me and he's like, we're willing to make an offer. Okay, good. Let's make the offer. He gives me the offer. The offer was below the amount that I'd given him. By the way, he asked me for my number. I gave him my number. He says, you know, as I told you, we're not going to negotiate after we make you the formal offer. Sounds great. Gives me the offer. I look at it. He said, we'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. First thing I said to him, oh, hey, thank you so much for the offer. I think your company is dynamic. I think I like the growth of your company. I like that I do have a path laid out for me to grow within the company. So that's also key. You want to have a growth within the company. You want to have a future there, right? However, I thank you, but I'm not going to accept it. He wasn't shocked. He said to me, why are you not going to accept it? I said, well, it's not. He said, what do we need to do for you to accept the offer? And I said, well, I already gave you the number. And he said, okay, well, should we talk? And I said, absolutely. If you're willing to talk, I'm willing to talk. The first thing you said to me before we started our interview process was, you're not willing to negotiate beyond your formal offer. So as I'm being respectful to you and following up your protocol, you said to me, we're not going to do this, but I'm open to do this. So we did that. We talked, and he's like, okay, let me come back to you. And then came back to me the next day, and they're like, okay, we're willing to get to your number, and we're willing to make you the offer at your number. So I said, okay, great, thank you. Now we need an answer within 24 hours. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. After getting the offer, I actually have to tell them whether I want the job or not. Okay, good. I'll come back to you in 24 hours. And after lots of soul searching, a lot of, you know, waiting out, quality of life, benefits, future within the company, I decided to take the offer. So it was a learning curve, and understanding now that I had to work remotely. But, you know, I perhaps left a little bit on the table there, but then the quality of life of working remotely for me was key at the time, because my son's age. I want to be at home a little bit more than being away. So you guys don't have that problem right now. So make your mistakes now, it's like Hernan said. All right, guys, do you have any questions for me? I do want to challenge you to take a moment and just save your current resume, find a position, create a new resume for that position, and just share with me if you like. If not, just look at it, how different it looks. And yes, it can be a one page, but you will be surprised the impact it makes when you have a catered resume, a tailor-made resume for the specific job. You would see key differences, the keywords on the job description. And again, this is part of also the matrix, Emerson, that you were saying earlier. Those matrix also pick up that you have those keywords that they're looking for. They want to know that you read the job description and that you actually are a fit. Is your resume a fit to our job? And if it doesn't fit, they're going to say, why is he even applying for this job? Even though you think you have the degree to go for the job. But they say, well, it doesn't look like it fits. So take that as a challenge for me as well. You guys have any other questions? I wish this was more, I wanted to be more a resume preparing training position for you guys or class for you guys. And then we can go to master. Any questions?
I was gonna ask if we could connect with you on LinkedIn, Monica.
Yes, absolutely. Please do send me an invite. And I have you guys' names, so I'll be glad to accept. Well, I'm sure it's already 8 p.m. Sorry for my tardiness. Do not show up late to a job interview, please. They will not look kind of that. And if you don't have any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and head home and see my son.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you very
attention
much.
and for your time.
Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you, Monica,
Thank you.
for
And congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your studies, okay? Thank you, Victor, for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you all.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I just shared Monica's LinkedIn so you can connect with her. And yeah, thank you so much, Monica, for your time. It was really helpful. It really helped me additionally to recap my resume and read it again, because I've been on the job hunting and it's really interesting. Like you said, the remote position, the hybrid position, it's all new on this new era. So yeah, thank you so much for everything.
Absolutely. And Austin, I'm with you in terms of quality of life. Quality of life is very important. You want to be happy where you work. You want to be in a healthy environment. I think from when I started my career to where I'm now, I've seen a huge change and a huge swing on companies being supportive to quality of life, which, again, like I said, on my first day of work, they said to me, you forgot that you don't really take a lunch in a trading floor. And I said, wow, I thought I was supposed to eat lunch, but they couldn't really tell you that because it was more about numbers and about this and not so much about, let's say, quality of life. But now we understand that it makes good employees and it makes, long-lasting relationships within companies and it makes happier employees. And when you're happy, you want to be in your company and you want to work harder and you want to give 100% rather than 30%. You're like, oh, I'm so tired of this company. I can't believe the culture. No. It actually you give more. I'm sorry, I heard someone said something before. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Feel free to contact me. I'm on all the chats as well. And so my number is there for you to reach out to me, send me a message. If you want to send me a before and after of your resume, I would love to see that. Just as an exercise of how powerful it can be, just to make those few adjustments. And I've had a very successful career, and I have to say that in the job interviews that I have been to, I have gotten offers. But I really do think it shows when you prepare yourself for each individual company. It shows. The employer can tell, the person that you're talking to can tell that you took the time. And if you can make that work ahead of time, they can see that you are an employee, a potential employee worth having in the company. So thank you all very much. Enjoy your dinners. And we're in touch. Just feel free to reach out anytime.
Awesome. Well, see you later, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Have a good evening.